Hello, future engineers, subscribers, viewers, and students. So is a video in plane and spherical trigonometry. And in this first part of this video, we'll have to consider the following topics: angles, measurements and conversions, triangles, solutions to right triangles, standard position of an angle, and areas of triangles. And these areas of triangles will be introduced here, but to be derived when we reach plane and solid geometry. So let's have first angles, measurements, and conversions. We define trigonometry as the branch of mathematics that deals with the study and measurements of distances and angles, where we define an angle as the space between two rays or lines meeting at the point called the vertex. So we have to illustrate, we have ray 1, then ray 2, or line 1, line 2. The angle between them is denoted by a Greek letter, usually theta, and that's the angular spacing, or that's the angle between the two rays or lines. Then the standard unit of angle is the radians. So it begins here on the positive x-axis, or right of this horizontal axis, then measured in counterclockwise direction. So it begins with 0, 0 radian, 0 degree, 0 grad, 0 mils. Then in counterclockwise direction, here we have pi over 2, then pi, 3 halves pi, then back 1 revolution is 2 pi radians, then 1 revolution and 1/4 is 5 halves pi, and so on and so forth. Then 1 revolution is equal to 2 pi radians, 360 degrees, 400 grads, 6,400 mils approximately, used in military. That's the units. Then measurements and convention. So the angle is measured from the initial side and it terminates at the terminal side, and the angular spacing theta, and that is positive counterclockwise. Likewise, if the angle is measured clockwise as shown, it is negative. Coterminal angles are angles that terminate in the same side. Examples of coterminal angles are 30 degrees and negative 330 degrees. So 30 degrees here. If measured in clockwise direction, that's negative 330 degrees. 30 degrees and 390 degrees, negative 330 degrees, negative 690 degrees, and so on and so forth. Those are coterminal angles. Another example would be pi over 2, negative 3 halves pi, and 5 halves pi, etc. So these are coterminal angles. So you can represent the coterminal angle with an unlimited number of angles coterminal with a given angle. We define inscribed angle denoted by alpha as the angle between two chords of a circle with vertex on the circle, or simply the angle between two sides of a triangle, or the interior angle. Any interior angle of a triangle is called peripheral or inscribed angle. So to illustrate, we have a triangle inscribed in a circle. We can always do that, and that's an inscribed angle. Likewise, a central angle is an angle bounded by two radii of a circle. The vertex should be coincident with the center of the circle. for it to be called central angle. So that's beta, central angle. And this is the definition. Angle between two radii of a circle with vertex at the center. So the next term or concept is about quadrantal angles. These are angles that terminate on the x or the y axis. So examples of these are 0 degree, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, 360 degrees, 450 degrees, or their negative counterparts. So remember that positive angles are measured in counterclockwise direction. Negative angles means clockwise directions. Next is the concept on reference angle, because this is very important in determining the values of the 6 trigonometric functions of angles, especially when dealing with the exact or accurate values of angles. So we define it as the acute angle formed between the terminal side and the x-axis. So that's reference angle. So in the example illustration here, so if that's the angle and angle 1 and it makes an angle 50 degrees with the x-axis counterclockwise, so the reference angle is also 50 degrees. For this case, 150 degrees from the x-axis, so this angle is 30 degrees. So the reference angle for angle 2 is 30 degrees. Next, for this angle 3 here, which makes 250 degrees from the positive x-axis. So 250 minus 180 is 70, reference angle is 70 degrees for that. And for the fourth, which makes an angle of 48 degrees clockwise or negative 48 degrees, its reference angle is 48 degrees. So again, reference angle for angle 1 is 50 degrees, angle 2 30 degrees, angle 3 70 degrees, and angle 4 48 degrees. Then let's have here the types of angles. By the way, when the sum of two angles, theta 1 and theta 2, is equal to 90 degrees, then each is called the complement of the other, or the angles are called complementary angles. If the sum is 180 degrees, each is called the supplement of the other, and vice versa, or their sum or the angles are called supplementary angles. And finally, if the sum is 360 degrees, each is called the explement of the other, and vice versa, or the sum is called explementary angle, or the angles are explementary angles. Then let's illustrate types of angles. And let's also have to specify the measurement, and let's also illustrate. So one is, so we have name of angle, measurement, and then illustration. Null angle is 0 degree, so theta is 0 degree. So that's the angle between two rays which are parallel here. So that's 0 degree. Illustration. Acute angle, the angle is between 0 degree and 90 degrees. And the illustration would be as shown. So the initial is this dashed line and solid line, or the terminal side of the angle. Third right angle, the angle is exactly 90 degrees. And the illustration will be as shown. Fourth is an obtuse angle, which is an angle between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So 90 degrees is less than theta, less than 180 degrees. And let's illustrate it as shown. Next is the straight angle. theta is 180 degrees. So the initial and the solid line terminal side or ray would be opposite to each other as shown in the figure. Then we have the reflex angle, which is angle between 180 degrees and 360 degrees. That's the reflex. So let's illustrate that as shown in the figure. So that's the reflex angle. Then finally we have full angle or perigon, and theta is 360 degrees as shown in the figure. So we define a triangle as a three-sided closed polygon. Then this is the important reminder or property of a triangle for it to form, and this is also the requirement so that you will get rid with the ambiguous case of the sine law. So remember, sine law has an ambiguous case. So in any triangle, the sum, for me, the sum of the shorter sides is always greater than the longest side. So we should specifically restate that condition, because the condition is the sum of any two sides of a triangle should be greater than the third side. But I rephrase it as a corollary to make it more understandable and clear. To make it clear, the sum of the shorter sides is always greater than the longest sides. So for example, there's no triangle with sides 1, 2, 3 because 1 plus 2 is exactly equal to 3. But there is a triangle with sides 1, 5, 4. 1, 5, 1, 5, 5. And it is an isosceles triangle. 1, 5, or 1, 6, 7. There's no triangle like that because 1 plus 6 is equal to 7. But there is a triangle with sides 2, 6, and 7, and so on. So you just remember that requirement that to form a triangle, the sum of the shorter sides should always be greater than the longest side. Then let's have here the illustration of a right triangle. So A plus B should be longer than C. This is our right triangle. Then in this triangle here, in order to show that if A and B are the shorter sides, then notice that if we extend them, prolong them, definitely the sum would be greater than C to form that triangle. Now, how will you draw a triangle with the given sides? So this is the suggested way. This is from the drawing techniques. If you have experience in drawing, then you can draw a triangle with a given size. Do not draw a triangle by freehand and you just assign the sides. The condition is to draw a triangle with the given sides accurately. So my suggestion is you have to lay out first the longest side, let us say C, horizontally, then using your compass with one end one tip of the compass at A, you strike an arc with radius B. Then with B as center, transfer the compass here. The compass with one end again at B as center, strike an arc with radius B. The two arcs will intersect, and definitely the point of intersection would be the third vertex. It gives us this exact lengths of the other sides of the triangle. So that's it. You can also use these drawing techniques in solving problems in trigonometry, because after all, it deals with figures, so you can use techniques in geometry. You can analyze problems using the geometric techniques. So that's the condition, strike an arc, and that is B, radius. This is A, strike an arc, and that is definitely of radius A, and the intersection will be at C. This is Pythagoras' theorem for right triangles only. Hypotenuse square equals adjacent side square plus opposite side square. And there are so many proofs of the Pythagoras theorem, but the one that I like most is by George Shultz, one of the cabinet members of President Reagan in his time, US President Reagan. So this is the formula. Hypotenuse C, this right triangle, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Then we have here the types of triangles, the name of triangle and definition, and let's also illustrate that. You need to know the different types of triangles for you to analyze problems in trigonometry involving triangles. One is the equilateral or equiangular triangle, and its angle, interior angle, or remember peripheral or inscribed angle, is 60 degrees, and also the sides are also equal in length. So 60, 60, x, x, x. You know that. Next is an isosceles triangle having two sides equal and angles, interior angles opposite the equal sides also equal. That's an isosceles triangle. Then if the angle opposite to the unique side is, or the hypotenuse is 90 degrees, in other words, this isosceles triangle is a right triangle also. It is called an isosceles right triangle. So this is the illustration for this isosceles triangle. Two sides equal, and the angles opposite those equal sides are also equal. Next is the Escalene triangle, a triangle having all sides unequal in length. So that's an Escalene triangle. Then a right triangle is a triangle with an angle, one interior angle, which is 90 degrees. And that triangle is the one where we can apply the Pythagoras theorem. So let us continue with the types of triangles. Next is we have an oblique triangle. So we define it as a triangle having no right angle, and we can also define this triangle as Escalene triangle because the sides are unequal, the angles are also unequal. So here we have an oblique triangle. Angles are different and there's no right angle. Next, obtuse triangle. A triangle having one obtuse angle, of course. In any triangle, there should only be one obtuse angle. So that's obtuse, an angle which is greater than 90. Remember that the sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. Next is an acute triangle. A triangle having all interior angles acute. So like this, no angle exceeds 90 degrees. So all angles are acute. So that's an acute triangle. So this is the proof of the Pythagoras theorem. There are so many proofs of the Pythagoras theorem, but the one presented by George Shultz, one of the cabinet members of President Reagan, as mentioned earlier, is this. So we have here a right triangle. This is a right triangle, 90 degrees here. And in this right triangle, we have to reorient this same triangle as this one. So this vertex is now connected with that. So this is horizontal. So that's why this is now B. That's the 90-degree angle. And this is now the base, which is now the vertical leg for this same identical right triangle. So of course, because in a right triangle, the sum of the other angles, not this one, is also 90 degrees to make it 180 degrees. So that means that the angle between this hypotenuse and that hypotenuse is equal to 90 degrees. So that this is also a right triangle. So this is just an imaginary line. So the area of the trapezoid, this trapezoid here, is equal to the area of this triangle plus the area of this triangle plus the area of the triangle. All these triangles are right triangles. The area of trapezoid is 1/2 quantity A plus B, sum of parallel sides, then times the distance between parallel sides, which is also A plus B. So simplifying and expanding, that's 1/2 quantity A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. And this area of the trapezoid is also equated to the area of this triangle, which is 1/2 AB, plus the area of this triangle, which is also 1/2 AB, plus the area of this right triangle, 1/2 C times C, or 1/2 C squared. We cancel out 1/2 for all terms. So we have A squared plus 2AB plus B squared equals AB plus AB plus C squared. Since AB plus AB is 2AB, we cancel out 2AB. Therefore, we have shown here the Pythagoras theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, or the sum of the squares of the perpendicular legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. Then we have to consider solutions of right triangle. Of course, we have to use the Pythagoras theorem and other concepts associated with right triangles. It may also have you may also deal with isosceles right triangle. So this Pythagoras theorem was attributed to the Greek mathematician and philosopher Pythagoras, who was considered as the first true mathematicians. Because of his work, because many admired Pythagoras, a society was formed, and that society following Pythagoras, adoring and idolizing Pythagoras. was the Pythagorean society. So again, let's state the Pythagoras theorem. Hypotenuse square equals adjacent side square plus opposite side square. So opposite of the angle theta. So let us say we have an angle theta at B there. So that A would be adjacent to theta for that case. That's theta. Next, we have the trigonometric functions of an acute angle. There are 6 ratios here. So first is sine theta, which is defined as the opposite over hypotenuse, and it is equal to opposite to theta b hypotenuse c. Then we have cosecant theta, the reciprocal of sine theta. So it is hypotenuse over opposite, c over b. Cosine theta is adjacent side over hypotenuse, so it is a over c. And the reciprocal of cosine theta is the secant of theta, and it is hypotenuse over adjacent, so c over a. Tangent theta is opposite over adjacent, so b over a. And the reciprocal of tangent theta is cotangent theta, adjacent side over opposite, so it is a over b. So next we have the fundamental trigonometric identities. We call Pythagoras theorem c square equals a square plus b square. If we divide everything through by c square, then we have 1 in the left side, or c over c quantity square equals a over c quantity square plus b over c quantity square. And we note that a over c is cosine of theta, so that's 1 square is 1, so cosine square theta, and b over c is sine of theta, so 1 therefore is cosine theta squared plus sine theta squared. And that's the Pythagoras theorem. Cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta equals 1. If we divide everything by cosine squared theta, then that becomes 1, and sine over cosine is equal to tangent, so 1 plus tangent squared theta equals 1 over cosine squared theta, which is secant squared theta. So 1 plus tangent squared theta equals secant squared theta. If we divide this instead by sine squared theta, and we define cosine over sine as cotangent, so cotangent squared theta plus 1 equals 1 over sine square, which is cosecant square theta. So again, cotangent square theta plus 1 equals cosecant square theta. In other words, it is only needed that you can recall this and the definition that tangent theta is sine theta over cosine theta. 1 over the reciprocal of cosine is secant theta, the reciprocal of sine is cosecant theta. So you don't need to memorize all this, just this one and the other definition, so that you can derive the other 2 fundamental trigonometric identities. So we call this the fundamental trigonometric identities. We also have reciprocal identities, which we defined earlier. So sine theta is 1 over cosecant theta. Then cosecant theta is 1 over sine theta, so that's vice versa. Then cosine theta is equal to 1 over secant theta. The same manner, secant theta is 1 over cosine theta. Tangent theta is 1 over cotangent theta. And cotangent theta, of course, is 1 over tangent of theta. Next, we have complementary functions. So remember complementary angles? The sum of the angles is 90 degrees, so each is called the complement of the other. So if one angle is theta, the complement of theta would be 90 degrees minus theta. So if we have here the right triangle and this is our theta, the guide, so the other angle is the complement of theta. That's 90 degrees minus theta, or the complement of theta. 90 degrees minus theta is the complement of theta, and that is abbreviated by cos dash theta. That's the abbreviation. This is also complement of theta, or 90 degrees minus theta. Therefore, sine theta is equal to cosine of the complement, so cosine of 90 degrees minus theta, or cosine of quantity cos theta. Then cosine theta is equal to sine of quantity 90 degrees minus theta, or sine of quantity cos theta. Tangent theta is cotangent of quantity 90 degrees minus theta, or cotangent of cos theta. Cotangent theta is tangent of quantity 90 degrees minus theta, or tangent of cos theta. Secant theta is equal to the cosecant of quantity 90 degrees minus theta, and it is cosecant of cos theta also. Cosecant theta is secant of quantity 90 degrees minus theta, and it is also secant of quantity cos theta. So the next concept, when we solve triangles, it involves angle of elevation, angle of depression. And let's define that here in our illustration. So let us say we have here, you are the observer, then the horizontal line through the eye level, or our eye level, is called the horizon. So this is the line of sight, the target is there, and that's the line of sight, that's the horizon. So the angle between the horizon, this is horizontal, horizontal line through our eyes, so through the eyes of the observer. And therefore, if the line of sight is above the horizon, that's angle of elevation. Whereas if the observer is on top and the target is below, so this is still the horizon, and the target is below the line of sight, so the angle that the line of sight makes with the horizon is this time angle of depression. So in other words, if that's the angle of depression, if you interchange observer target positions, then this is also the angle of elevation. So they are equal actually if we have only one line of sight. So that's the concept of angle of elevation and angle of depression. So let's have the standard position of an angle. Then remember the concept earlier on reference angle. So we have here in the first quadrant, x is positive, y is positive. That's the reference angle. That's also the angle. And y is positive. The hypotenuse denoted by r is always positive, no matter where the angle theta is located. In any of the quadrant, r is always positive. So in the second quadrant, x is negative, y is positive, and r is always positive. Of course, in the third quadrant, so again, theta is the reference angle. X is negative, y is negative, and r is always positive. In the fourth quadrant, x is positive, y negative, r is always positive. So for instance, if the angle here is 30 degrees, if it lies in the sine of 30 is, you know that it is 1/2. I can memorize it, 1/2. Cosine of 30 is square root of 3 over 2. You may also use Pythagoras theorem, and the different uh, values for in a right triangle when the angle involved is 30 degrees. So if this is 30 degrees, that means this is 210 degrees. But since y is negative in the third quadrant and x is also negative in the third quadrant, then that means cosine of 30 degrees, if this is 30 degrees, then this angle would be 180 plus 30, 210 degrees. So sine of 30 is positive 1/2, while sine of 210 degrees is negative 1/2. Cosine of 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 2, positive. So cosine of 210 degrees is negative square root of 3 over 2. Tangent of 30 degrees is 1 over square root of 3, or it is square root of 3 over 3. Then tangent of 210 degrees is also square root of 3 over 3. Positive because both x and y are negative, and the ratio would be positive. So that's the idea of how to use the reference angle. Another thing, for example, this is again 30 degrees and this is 30 degrees. So that means the angle that this terminal side makes with the positive x-axis is 150 degrees. So sine of 150 degrees, because y is positive, it is 1/2. Just like sine of 30 degrees, 1/2. And remember also that sine of an angle and sine of its supplement are equal. So sine 30, sine 150, 1/2. They are equal. Cosine of 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 2, positive, while cosine of 150 degrees is negative square root of 3 over 2 because x is negative in the second quadrant. So that's the use of this reference angle. If you are able to memorize values of angle, trigonometric function values of an angle, then you are able to determine the value if the terminal side lies in any quadrant by using this reference angle. So for example, I am able to memorize that the value of tangent of, for instance, tangent theta is 0.3. That is 16.7 degrees. Tangent theta is 16.7 degrees. So if the angle that this terminal side makes with the x-axis is 16.7 degrees and it lies in the what we call this second quadrant, and since tangent is negative there, so tangent of 16.7 degrees, which is 0.3, positive 0.3, is, if we have 180 minus 16.7, that's 163.3, 16.7, 163.3. So if you press tangent of 163.3, that would be negative 0.3, because 163.3 lies in the second quadrant, and the reference angle of 163.3 is 16.7 degrees. That's that technique. Opposite to 0.3, or the reciprocal of 0.3 is 1 over 0.3, or that's 10 thirds. 10 over 3, because 3 tenths is 0.3. And tangent of 10 thirds, therefore, is equal to 73.3, 16.7, 73.3 degrees. Again, tangent of arctan of 10 thirds is 73.3 degrees. So if the angle that the terminal side makes with this negative x-axis is 73.3, and it lies in the third quadrant, I'm just giving you the technique on how to memorize, because I can tell you the value not immediately, but I need to think also. So for instance, 180 plus 73.3, that's 253.3. So if you press tangent of 253.3, that's also 10 thirds, or 3.3333. So you try that with your calculator, and so on and so forth. So inverse tangent of 0.2, for example, is 11.3 degrees. So I'm able to memorize that. Inverse tangent of 0.3, 16.7. Inverse tangent of 0.4, 21.801 degrees. Inverse tangent of 1/3, 18.45 degrees, for example. You can use those known angles and value of tangents. So even sine function. So for instance, sine of 16.7, because tangent is 0.3, 3 over 10, so sine of 16.7 would be in decimal. You just express it in decimal. I write it as accurately. It is 3 over square root of 109. Sine of 16.7, it is 3 over square root of 109. And your calculator will give you a decimal value, but try to check 3 over square root of 109 in decimal form. So tangent of cosine of 21.801 degrees, for example, it is equal to 10 over square root of 116 in decimal. So 10 over square root of 116. And so on and so forth, as long as you can memorize so many values. And you can also check my playlist in trigonometry if you want for those techniques. So we call theta as the reference angle. So from the figure, sine theta is y over r, cosecant theta is r over y, reciprocal. Cosine theta is x over r, so therefore secant theta is r over x. Tangent theta y over x, so cotangent theta is x over y. And remember Pythagoras theorem, for this case, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So next, let's have the areas, different formulas for areas of triangle. The basic one is 1/2 base times height. So if this is the triangle, by the way, the derivation of the rest of the formulas will be deferred until we reach plane and solid geometry. So 1/2 base times height. So if the base is B, the height is denoted by h sub B, the perpendicular line through vertex B. It is also 1/2 A, then we call that h sub A, 1/2 C, h sub C. So if it is an obtuse triangle, it is still 1/2 B, and this is HB, as shown in the figure. HA, then HB, then H sub C. So 1/2 the product of perpendicular dimensions. Then area of triangles, another formula would be 1/2 BC sine angle A. Take note that B and C are adjacent sides, and the angle between this side is A. So it is 1/2 the product of this adjacent side sine angle A, 1/2 AC sine angle B, 1/2 AB sine angle C. And to prove this formula, from this formula here, area of triangle 1/2 BHB, in this right triangle here, HB is hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is side C, then the angle is A, so HB is C sine angle A. C sine angle A, so this is HB. So it comes from 1/2 base times height. But if I were you, I suggest that you have to use this formula. This is the most important formula for area of triangle. 1/2 product of the adjacent side sine of the angle between the sides, because it is also the, aside from this 1/2 base times height, it is also the formula that can be easily remembered. That one. So next is, we have here area in terms of the radius of the circumscribing circle about a triangle, and the radius is denoted by big R. So again, the derivation of this formula will be in plane geometry. So it is ABC over 4R. It is still 1/2 BC sine angle A. So 1/2 BC sine angle A. And let's show in that plane geometry there that sine angle A is equal to A over 2R, or A over the diameter of the circumscribing circle. So in the meantime, let's just accept that, and I think you're also familiar with that formula. The fourth case of area of a triangle is RS, where R is the radius of the inscribed circle, and S is half the perimeter of the triangle. And we can easily derive this. You just locate the center of this circle here, then you form three triangles. So the area is the sum of the three triangles. You just apply 1/2 base times height. 1/2 A, and the perpendicular height would be R, 1/2 B times R, then 1/2 C times R, factor out R over 2. Then you'll have R over 2 times quantity A plus B plus C. Since A plus B plus C is perimeter, divide by 2, that's S. So area is RS. That one. Next is this formula here, together with the law of sines. We're able to derive this formula. It's just familiar one. It is equal to the square of any side. So for example, B squared times the product of the sines of the angles adjacent to B. What are angles adjacent to B? A and C. So that's why you have sine angle A and times sine angle C. Then divided by 2, because area is 1/2, remember. and you can use the earlier 1/2 BC sine angle A, 1/2 BC sine angle A, then express C in terms of B using the law of sines, then this formula can be derived. And you're just familiar with this. So this is the technique of memorizing this formula. You also derive it by your own, although the derivation is in plane geometry. Any side square times sine of the times the product of the sine of the angles adjacent to that side. So adjacent to B would be A and angle C. So B squared sine angle A sine angle C divided by 2, then times sine of the angle opposite to that side. So which side is opposite, which angle is opposite to side B? Angle B. Take note that sine of angle B is also sine of quantity 180 degrees minus quantity angle A plus angle C. In other words, this denominator, instead of sine angle B, you can also replace this by sine quantity angle A plus angle C, because sine of angle A plus angle C is equal to sine of 180 degrees minus quantity angle A plus angle C. And angle B is 180 degrees minus quantity angle A plus angle C. So it's the same. But this is easier to remember also. This is called the Heron's formula. Area is equal to square root of S minus quantity S minus A, S minus B times quantity S minus C. Then the seventh case of area of triangle is area in terms of the ascribed circles, radius of ascribed circle. And we can easily derive this formula, the formulas for area, which is R times quantity S minus R sub A times quantity S minus A, R sub B times quantity S minus B. Area is R sub C quantity S minus C, where R sub A, R sub B, R sub C are the radii of the ascribed circle. So tangent to one side, let's say A, and the prolongation of the other sides. So the derivation of the formulas would be easy. So for instance, you locate this center, then you draw lines connected to that, then it will form a quadrilateral. The area of the shaded triangle is equal to the area of the quadrilateral, then minus the area of this triangle, where the area of the quadrilateral would be 1/2 B times, you form that triangle there. B is the base, R sub A is the height, plus 1/2 of C, another triangle here, 1/2 C times R sub A, the height, then less 1/2 of A times R sub A. Then you can derive that. So S again is half the perimeter A plus B plus C divided by 2. So that's it for this video. So for the next one, we'll have sample problem videos for this trigonometry plane and spherical trigonometry part 1. So here is the last part. But if you encounter a problem or situation where you're asked to compute the ratio of areas of triangles, the triangles formed are just for this one triangle here. So remember that area is 1/2 product of adjacent sides times sine of the included angle. Let's use that. And that's also the recommended formula for area of a triangle that I want you to remember or use. So this is the other situation, that's also theta. So area of triangle ADE is 1/2 ADAE times sine of theta, right? And 1/2 of triangle ABC is 1/2 of AB times AC sine of theta. In either case, either of these situations here. So the ratio of the area of triangle ADE to that of ABC would be, we cancel out sine theta over 2 after we obtain the ratio. So it is just the ratio of the product of sides, adjacent sides of that triangle, to the ratio of the product of adjacent sides of the parent triangle ABC, AB times AC. So that's it for this video.